never thought that I would find myself in a position where I had to unravel my life like a cheap sweater, but here I am. My name is Jake, and I was married to Emily for 6 years. In the beginning, everything seemed perfect. We met in college, both bright-eyed and hopeful about our futures. Emily was the kind of woman who lit up a room with her smile. Everyone thought we were the perfect couple, and to be honest, I believed it too. We had everything: love, laughter, and a decent amount of savings. But as the years went by, I started noticing cracks in the facade. It began subtly. Emily became increasingly distant, often lost in her phone during dinner, her laughter less frequent. I chalked it up to the stress of work. She was in marketing and had been pulling long hours for a big project. But there were signs, little things, you know. The way she'd changed the subject when I asked about her day, her reluctance to share her phone screen when I casually asked, and the late nights that seemed to multiply. I convinced myself I was being paranoid, but deep down, a nagging feeling grew. One Friday evening while making dinner, I decided to check on her social media. I casually looked through her Instagram, where I found a photo that shattered my world. It was a picture of her and a guy named Mark, hands wrapped around each other, both flashing grins that looked far too intimate for my liking. The caption was innocuous enough, just a fun night out with friends, but it was the comments that got me. "You two look so cute together, and you guys should totally date." My heart sank. After that, I decided to dig a little deeper. I found more pictures taken on weekends when she claimed she was working late. My stomach churned as I pieced together a timeline of her lies. It was gut-wrenching. Knowing she had a secret life, one I was completely excluded from, made my blood boil. I wasn't just angry, I felt betrayed, like I had been living a lie. Finally, the day came when I confronted her. I walked into the living room, heart pounding, and there she was, perched on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I stood in front of her, arms crossed, trying to muster up strength. "Emily, we need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. She glanced up, and for a split second I thought I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes, but it vanished quickly, replaced with a defensive glare. "What's wrong?" she replied, feigning innocence. I threw the phone down on the coffee table, the screen shining brightly with the damning photo of her and Mark. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. Her reaction was nothing short of theatrical. "Jake, calm down. You don't understand," she exclaimed, putting her hands up as if I was the crazy one. "It was just a party, we were all just having fun." "Fun? Is that what you call it? You're cheating on me, Emily. You've been lying to me for months." She launched into her excuses, spinning a web of deceit that only made my anger flare higher. She claimed it was all innocent, just flirting and nothing more, but I knew better. Deep down, I could feel the heartache rising like bile in my throat. This wasn't just a betrayal of trust. It was a full-on assault on my self-worth. I stormed out, leaving her in a cloud of denial and tears. I drove aimlessly for hours, my mind racing with memories of our life together. How could she do this to me? I felt like someone had ripped out my heart and stomped on it. I thought about the plans we had: vacations, starting a family, the house we dreamed of buying. All of it felt like a cruel joke now. As the shock wore off, anger took its place, and a plan began to form. I would not let her get away with this. Emily had stolen my heart, my trust, and my money. It was time to take something from her in return. I wasn't sure what that would look like yet, but I knew I had to act. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of resolve. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming my dignity. I wasn't the one in the wrong here. I deserved better. Little did I know, I was about to set off a chain of events that would change everything. After that confrontation, I felt like I was living in a fog. My mind was racing, plotting revenge, but I also had to navigate the daily reality of living with Emily. We were still under the same roof, and I didn't want to make any rash moves until I was sure of my plan. I needed to gather evidence, something solid that would expose her lies and give me leverage. I started keeping a close eye on her. I noticed her routine: the late-night meetings, the extra hours spent at the gym, and the odd texts that she thought I wasn't looking at. I began to document everything, taking notes on my phone whenever she left the house or received a suspicious message. The more I watched, the more I realized how much she thought she could get away with it. One night, while I was pretending to have a late work meeting, I noticed her acting particularly giddy. She was on the phone, and I could only hear half of her conversation, but the way she smiled and laughed made my blood boil. "I can't wait to see you again. Just a little longer and we can be together," she said, her voice dripping with excitement. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my keys and went for a drive, my thoughts clouded with anger and betrayal. I ended up at a bar, nursing a drink and replaying the last few years in my mind. A part of me longed for the Emily I fell in love with, the one who would surprise me with my favorite meals and laugh at my stupid jokes. But that woman was gone, replaced by a stranger who was willing to throw it all away for a fling. The next day, fueled by frustration and bitterness, I reached out to one of Emily's friends, a woman named Sarah who had been close to us both. I needed someone who could help me get more information about Emily and Mark. I crafted a casual text, pretending to want to catch up and see how she was doing. Once we met for coffee, I steered the conversation toward Emily. "Hey, have you seen Emily lately? She seems changes," I said, keeping my voice light. Sarah took a sip of her drink, hesitating before answering. "Yeah, she's been a bit distant. I thought it was just work stress, but yeah, I heard she's been hanging out with Mark a lot. You think there's anything going on?" I watched her carefully, trying to gauge her response. Her eyes widened slightly. "I mean, I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. Mark has been all over her social media lately. He's a real charmer, you know." I felt a rush of validation. I wasn't imagining it, other people could see the same things I had. "So it's not just me then?" I pressed. "No, definitely not. But you should probably talk to her about it," Sarah suggested, clearly uncomfortable. That's when it hit me. I had to confront Emily again, but this time I would be armed with more than just feelings. I'd have proof. I left the coffee shop with a renewed sense of determination. I started planning my next move. The following week, I started to set my trap. I created a fake social media profile using a picture of a handsome guy I found online. I sent Emily a friend request, and soon enough she accepted, oblivious to my intentions. I began messaging her under this false identity, pretending to be someone new in town looking to make friends. Within a few days, Emily was practically flirting with me. The conversations were light at first, but as I steered them deeper, she became more open, revealing her dissatisfaction with our marriage. "Things have been tough lately," she typed. "I'm just looking for some excitement." I could hardly believe what I was reading. Here she was, talking so freely to someone she thought was a stranger while lying to me every day. I kept the conversations going, feeding her ego and encouraging her to talk more about Mark. I wanted to gather as much information as possible before I made my next move. One night I caught her off guard. I texted her from my fake account. "What if I told you I wanted to meet up, just to hang out?" The eager response I received was like salt on an open wound. "I'd love that, let's make it happen. Just tell me when and where." I waited a few days and finally decided it was time to drop the bomb. I set up a meeting at a local cafe where I would confront her in person. I ordered a coffee and sat at a table close to the entrance, my heart pounding with anticipation. This was it. I was ready to expose her and take back my life. When Emily walked in, a smile spread across her face as she scanned the room. She was dressed nicely, looking vibrant and youthful. But that was the version of her I had grown to resent, the one who had betrayed me. I needed to stay focused. As she approached my table, I stood up and smiled, trying to mask my true feelings. "Hey there, glad you could make it," I said, my voice calm. She tilted her head, a glimmer of confusion in her eyes. "Did you say you were new in town? I don't think I've seen you around." I chuckled softly, but it felt hollow. "Oh, you could say that, but I know someone who has been spending a lot of time with you lately, Mark, right?" Her face dropped as the realization hit. I had her right where I wanted her. The truth began to unravel, and I was finally ready to hear her explanations. She was going to have to face the music, and I was prepared to take back what she had stolen from me. Emily's expression shifted drastically as the words hung in the air between us. The smile that had graced her face just moments ago faded, replaced by a mix of confusion and fear. She looked around the cafe, probably gauging if anyone was paying attention to our conversation. I could see the wheels turning in her mind, trying to figure out how to spin her way out of this. "Jake," She stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you doing here?" I leaned in, keeping my tone low but steady. "I think you know exactly why I'm here, Emily. You've been lying to me for months, and I want to know what you're going to say about it." She opened her mouth to reply, but nothing came out. I could see the panic building within her. "Jake, I can explain." She finally blurted, her eyes darting away from mine, searching for an escape. "Oh, please do," I said, feigning interest. "I'm all ears." Her explanation began as expected, defensive, filled with excuses that only confirmed what I already knew. "It's not what you think. Mark is just a friend from work. We've been hanging out, and I didn't want to upset you by mentioning it. You've been so busy with your projects, and I thought it would be nice to have someone to talk to." "Someone to talk to, huh?" I shot back, my voice rising slightly. "Is that why you've been sneaking around? Because you didn't want to include me in your friendship?" She fumbled for words, and I could see the cracks in her carefully constructed facade. "It was just harmless fun. I swear, I never meant for it to go this far." "Harmless fun?" I echoed incredulously. "Is that what you call it when you're texting him late at night, laughing and planning meetups? You've betrayed my trust, Emily. This isn't just about some late-night chats. It's about the fact that you've chosen to build a life with someone else while pretending everything was fine with us." The cafe was starting to fill up, and I could feel eyes glancing our way. My anger was boiling over, but I needed to stay composed. Emily, on the other hand, looked increasingly desperate. She reached out to grab my hand across the table, her expression shifting to one of pleading. "Jake, please, I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought I could manage it all. I really care about you, but I was feeling so lonely." Lonely? How could she possibly think that was a valid excuse? "You don't get to shift the blame onto me. I've been committed to you, and you threw that away for some excitement. This isn't just a little flirting, this is betrayal." The table between us felt like a chasm, and she seemed to realize it as well. "I made a mistake," she said softly, tears forming in her eyes. "But I want to make it right. Please, Jake, can we try to fix this?" Her pleas rang hollow in my ears, and I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me. The woman I had loved was sitting across from me, but all I could see was the wreckage of our relationship. "Fix this? How do you expect me to trust you again after what you've done? You've taken my heart and stomped on it. You've stolen my trust, my confidence, and now you want me to just pretend it never happened." She began to sob, and I felt a twinge of empathy. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her we could work it out, but the betrayal was too fresh. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Emily, I need time to think. I don't know if I can forgive you. You've caused a rift that's hard to bridge." She nodded, her face buried in her hands. I sat back, a mix of emotions swirling within me. I knew I had to make a decision soon, and it couldn't just be about her feelings. I had to think about myself, my future, and what I truly wanted. As we left the cafe, the tension between us was palpable. Emily tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. The woman I once trusted was now a stranger. I needed distance to see clearly. In the days that followed, I found myself in a haze. My mind fixated on the betrayal, replaying every moment we had shared, every laugh, every plan, every intimate moment. How could she throw it all away so easily? The emotional roller coaster was exhausting, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of anger, sadness, and confusion. I began to talk to friends about what I was going through. I reached out to my buddy Tom, who had been through a similar experience a few years prior. He listened patiently as I recounted the events, detailing Emily's betrayal and my feelings of inadequacy. "You deserve better, man," he said after I finished. "You need to put yourself first. You've already given her enough chances." His words stuck with me, resonating deeply. I realized that I hadn't just lost trust in Emily, I had lost trust in myself. For so long, I had placed my happiness in her hands, and now it was time to reclaim that power. Later that week, I decided to meet with Emily again. I needed to lay down the law. I would no longer be the victim in this situation. I was done with the games and the lies. I wanted to take control and demand the respect I deserved. When we met, I was prepared. This time, I wouldn't let her charm or tears sway me. I would stand my ground, and I would be unwavering. I was ready to confront her once more, but this time, the conversation would be different. I needed a resolution. Meeting Emily again felt like stepping into the ring for a final round, and I was determined to come out victorious. I chose a quiet park for our discussion, a neutral space where emotions could be managed and I could think clearly. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the path, but all I could focus on was the weight of the conversation ahead. As she approached, her demeanor was a mix of hopefulness and anxiety. She looked almost fragile and the sight tugged at my heart, but I quickly reminded myself why I was there. I had to stay strong. "Jake," she started, her voice soft. "I've been thinking a lot about what we talked about. I want to apologize again. I'm really sorry for everything. I messed up." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Emily, apologies are just words without action. I need to know what you're willing to do to make this right. I can't just forget what happened." Her eyes widened slightly, and I could see the realization hit her that I wasn't going to let her sweet-talk me this time. "I understand. I want to prove to you that I can change. I want to fight for us." "Fight for us," I echoed, my voice growing firmer. "You've already made your choice and it wasn't me. You chose to betray my trust, to lie to my face while you were out having fun with someone else. What guarantee do I have that you won't do it again?" She hesitated, searching for the right words. "I know I've made mistakes, but I love you, Jake. I've always loved you. Mark was just a distraction, someone I thought could fill the void when you were busy." I realize now how foolish that was. Her words were like daggers, reminding me of the past but also revealing her vulnerability. Despite the anger boiling within me, I saw glimpses of the woman I once loved, battling against the selfishness that had taken over. But I needed more than just words. I needed evidence of change. I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. "You need to understand something, Emily. I'm not just going to forgive and forget. If we're going to have a chance at rebuilding anything, it has to be rooted in honesty and transparency. I can't go through this again." She nodded slowly, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes, Jake. I'll cut ties with Mark. I'll show you that I can be the wife you deserve. Just give me a chance." The sincerity in her voice was unsettling. I wanted to believe her, but a part of me was terrified of the possibility of getting hurt again. "What does that look like?" I asked, trying to keep my emotions in check. "How can I know you won't fall back into the same patterns? I'll share my phone with you. I'll be open about my whereabouts. I'll even go to counseling if you think that would help," she replied passionately. "I just want a chance to prove it to you." I took a moment to process her words. There was something about her willingness to discuss counseling that struck me. It showed a level of commitment to address the deeper issues in our relationship. But I needed to set firm boundaries. I wouldn't let her manipulate me into believing everything was fine without significant changes. "All right," I finally said, my voice steady. "I'm willing to give this one last shot, but only if you follow through. I need to see you take action. No more lies, no more secrets. If you mess up again, this is over." The seriousness of my words hung in the air, and I could see her absorbing the weight of my ultimatum. "I understand, and I'm ready to fight for us. I promise," she replied, her voice shaky but filled with conviction. We parted ways that evening, and for the first time in weeks I felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't the overwhelming joy I had once felt, but it was a beginning, a small step toward healing. But I knew this was just the initial phase. I had to keep my guard up, not just for my sake, but for the sake of our future together. I began to plan my next steps carefully. I wanted to be assured that she was serious about her promises. In the days that followed, Emily kept her word. She was open with her phone, sharing messages and showing me her social media. I watched her cut ties with Mark, which was a step in the right direction, but I still felt like I was walking on eggshells. The counseling sessions began, and I went into them with an open mind, ready to explore our issues together. The therapist we found was fantastic, and I started to feel as if there was a glimmer of possibility for us to rebuild our relationship. As we delved into our past, I realized that Emily's actions were not just about betrayal. They stemmed from her own insecurities and feelings of loneliness. We both had work to do, and I was determined to show her that I was willing to put in the effort as well. However, as we navigated the healing process, something began to nag at me. Sure, I wanted to believe that things were getting better, but in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still hiding something. I decided that I needed to be proactive about this. I would continue to seek the truth, not just for myself but for the sake of our relationship. It became clear that I was not only on a journey of healing, but also on a path of vigilance. I had to be prepared for anything, including the possibility that Emily might not be as committed as she claimed. The stakes were high, and though I was hopeful, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger battle. With renewed determination, I prepared myself for whatever lay ahead. I would not let this betrayal define me, but I also wouldn't be foolish enough to let my guard down completely. The next phase of our journey was just beginning, and I was ready to face it head-on. As the weeks progressed, I found myself entrenched in a delicate dance with Emily. Every day felt like a test, a balancing act between hope and skepticism. While she kept her promises, sharing her phone and being open about her whereabouts, there was still a nagging doubt in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to monitor her closely, not out of distrust, but to protect my own heart. In counseling, we began to peel back layers of our relationship. The therapist helped us identify patterns in our communication that led to misunderstandings and, ultimately, Emily's infidelity. I learned that she often felt overwhelmed by my work commitments, believing I was choosing my career over her. I, in turn, felt suffocated by her need for reassurance, which often came across as demanding. It was a vicious cycle, and we were both guilty of neglecting each other's needs. One evening, after a particularly intense counseling session, Emily and I sat together on the couch, sipping tea. She looked tired but hopeful, her eyes reflecting a mix of vulnerability and sincerity. "I appreciate you being patient with me, Jake. I know I've got a lot to prove," she said softly. I nodded, choosing my words carefully. "I want to believe that we can make this work, Emily, but I need to see consistent effort from you. It can't just be for a few weeks. It has to be a lifestyle change." "Absolutely. I'm ready to do whatever it takes," she replied, her tone earnest. "I want us to be happy again." But despite her reassurances, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. It was as if a shadow hung over our conversations, and I wondered if her commitment was as genuine as she claimed. To ease my own mind, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I would investigate further. One afternoon, I went to her work, claiming I needed to drop off some paperwork. I casually chatted with a few of her coworkers, trying to gauge what they knew about Emily and Mark. To my relief, most of them seemed unaware of any ongoing relationship between the two. They spoke highly of Emily, emphasizing her dedication and hard work. It felt good to hear, but a part of me still couldn't shake the lingering uncertainty. However, my suspicions took a turn one day when I noticed Emily's phone buzzing more than usual. She had left it on the counter while she took a shower, and I hesitated for a moment before picking it up. I knew it was wrong, but I was desperate for answers. As I glanced at her messages, my heart raced. There was a thread with Mark that she hadn't deleted. It was innocent enough at first, filled with mundane conversation about work projects, but then I saw it, a message sent just days earlier. "Can't wait to see you again, just us. Let's not tell Jake." The world around me went silent. My heart dropped into my stomach as a wave of nausea washed over me. I felt anger and betrayal surge through my veins, boiling to the surface. How could she do this again? I thought we were rebuilding our trust. I felt like a fool. When Emily emerged from the shower, I was still sitting on the couch, her phone in my hand. The look on my face must have been something akin to shock because she froze in her tracks. "Jake, what's wrong?" I held up the phone, my voice shaking with rage. "What's this, Emily? You told me you were done with Mark." Her eyes widened and I could see the panic set in. "Jake, I can explain. It's not what you think." "Not what I think," I shot back, my voice rising. "It sounds like you're planning to see him again behind my back. You had one job, to be honest with me." She stepped closer, her hands trembling. "I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you again. It was a mistake. We were just talking about work. It didn't mean anything." "Talking about work," I snapped. "You think I'm going to buy that after everything? You've broken my trust again. How can I believe anything you say?" Emotions swirled between us and I felt the walls closing in. I needed to think straight to find a way through this storm of feelings. "I can't do this anymore, Emily. I can't keep living with the constant fear that you'll betray me again. It's tearing me apart." Her face crumbled, tears streaming down her cheeks as she begged for another chance, but I was done. I had given her so many opportunities to prove herself, and each time she had let me down. I left the house, my heart pounding, and drove to a nearby park to clear my head. As I sat on a bench, the weight of the world felt heavy on my shoulders. I had tried so hard to make things work, to give Emily the benefit of the doubt, but now it felt like I was fighting a losing battle. I called Tom, needing to vent and get a second opinion. "Dude, I don't know what to do," I admitted, my voice thick with emotion. "I thought we were making progress, but then I found out she's still talking to Mark. I just can't take this pain anymore." "Jake, you need to think about your happiness," Tom replied. "This isn't just on you. She made her choices, and now you have to decide what's best for you. It's okay to prioritize yourself." His words resonated, and I realized that I couldn't keep sacrificing my own well-being for her sake. I had to end this cycle of pain and disappointment. When I returned home, Emily was waiting, her eyes red and puffy from crying. "Jake," she started, but I held up my hand, cutting her off. "I can't do this anymore, Emily. I'm done. I deserve better than to be deceived time and time again." Her expression morphed from shock to despair, and I could see the realization hit her. "Please don't do this. I'll change. I'll do anything." "It's too late for that," I replied, my voice steady but firm. I felt a sense of relief wash over me as I made my decision. "I think it's best if we separate for a while. We need space to figure out what we really want, and I can't keep waiting for you to make a choice." The tears flowed freely as she begged me to reconsider, but I stood my ground. I had tried, and I was done being the one who was hurt. It was time to reclaim my life and my happiness. I knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was ready to move forward, one step at a time, without the burden of her betrayal hanging over me. As I walked away, I felt a mix of pain and liberation. This was a chapter closing, and though it hurt, I knew I was making the right choice. I was finally taking control of my own life, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next. In the weeks that followed my decision to separate from Emily, I experienced a whirlwind of emotions. I had anticipated feeling a sense of liberation, but I was surprised at how difficult it truly was. I spent my days trying to navigate life without her, reflecting on what had gone wrong and what I wanted moving forward. At first, the silence in the house was deafening. I missed the casual banter we used to have, the late-night talks about our dreams and plans, but I also felt a sense of relief. The constant tension and anxiety about her fidelity was gone, replaced by a quiet space where I could finally think. I realized I had spent too long prioritizing her emotions over my own, and now I had the time to focus on myself. I took the opportunity to reconnect with friends and family. Tom became my go-to support system, always ready to grab a drink or just listen when I needed to vent. I started participating in activities I had long neglected, hiking, reading books, and even taking up cooking again. It felt good to rediscover who I was outside of my relationship with Emily. During this time, I also began to reflect on my own role in our marriage. I acknowledged that while her betrayal was inexcusable, I had also contributed to the distance that had grown between us. I'd allowed my work to consume my life, leaving her feeling neglected and lonely. Recognizing this didn't excuse her actions, but it opened my eyes to the necessity of growth, both personally and professionally. After a couple of months, I felt more grounded and clear-headed. I began to think about what I wanted in a future relationship. I knew I needed someone who would prioritize communication, honesty, and mutual respect. I didn't want to jump into anything too quickly, but the thought of opening my heart again didn't scare me as much as it once had. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I came across a photo that struck me, a picture of myself with my friends at a recent barbecue. I looked happy, carefree. It reminded me that life was still full of joy, even amidst the chaos. I decided to share the photo with a caption reflecting my journey. Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find who you truly are. Just as I started to feel a sense of closure, I received a text from Emily. My heart raced as I opened it, unsure of what to expect. Can we talk? I've been doing a lot of thinking and I want to apologize for everything. I hesitated, torn between my desire to hear her out and the fear of reopening old wounds. I eventually agreed to meet, wanting to put an end to any lingering resentment. It was time to face the past head-on. When we met at a coffee shop, I was struck by how different she looked. The weight of guilt seemed to hang heavily on her shoulders. She looked genuinely remorseful, her eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and vulnerability. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," she started, her voice trembling. "I've done a lot of soul-searching since we separated. I realize now how much I hurt you and how misguided my actions were." I nodded, allowing her to express herself. "I've been seeing a therapist and I'm starting to learn about my own issues, why I felt the need to seek attention elsewhere instead of communicating with you. I regret everything and I'm so sorry for the pain I caused." Her honesty struck a chord within me and I could feel the walls I had built beginning to crack. "It still hurts, Emily," I told her, my voice steady, "but I appreciate you taking responsibility. It's a start." As we talked, I realized that I had moved on more than I thought. I no longer felt the deep-seated anger that had once consumed me. Instead, I felt a sense of empathy for the person she had been, lost and searching for validation. It was clear that she was on a path of growth, but I knew I couldn't go back to the way things were. "I'm glad you're working on yourself," I said, my tone softening, "but I think it's best if we don't try to rekindle what we had. I need to prioritize my own happiness and well-being right now, and I don't think we can do that together." She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I understand, Jake. You deserve all the happiness in the world. I just hope one day we can be friends." I smiled faintly. "Maybe in time, but for now let's focus on healing separately." As we parted ways, I felt a strange sense of closure. The conversation had allowed me to confront the past without allowing it to define my future. I had grown stronger, more resilient, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next. In the months that followed, I focused on my career and personal growth. I threw myself into work, earning a promotion that had seemed out of reach during my troubled marriage. I also began dating again, cautiously, but with an open heart. Each new connection was a chance for me to practice the lessons I'd learned about communication and honesty. Looking back, I realized that Emily had taught me valuable lessons about myself. Her betrayal had been painful, but it had also sparked a transformation. I learned to prioritize my own needs, to recognize the importance of clear communication, and to never settle for anything less than the respect and love I deserved. As I moved forward, I knew that I would never forget the experience, but I also understood that it didn't have to define me. I had stolen back my life, and in doing so, I was reclaiming my happiness one day at a time.